Welcome to my guide for the replay editor. There's been some big changes with the 0.0.0.28 update. This is the clip I'm going to be putting together throughout this guide. It's only basic, but it's enough to show the basic principles. Once you've landed the trick or the line you want to use, you can access the replay editor by pressing the back button on the controller or by going to the menu, replay editor, and then selecting show editor. The left and right triggers can be used to scrub through your recent footage. A will play and pause the footage, Y will show and hide the UI, and B will exit the replay editor. When you've found the section of footage you want to use, you can mark the start and end of the clip by holding the right shoulder button and clicking the left stick to mark the start and the right stick to mark the end of the clip. Once you've marked the start and the ending points of your clip, you're able to zoom in on it by holding the right shoulder button and pressing Y. The editing process is done by adding keyframes to the timeline. There's 5 different keyframes you're able to choose from. To cycle through the different keyframes, you can use the left and right arrows on the D-pad. It's worth noting that each keyframe has its own timeline, so don't panic if you change the keyframe and everything disappears. The camera keyframe is the main workhorse for the replay editor. It lets you set the position of the camera. But before I go over that, I'm just going to explain the different types of cameras. You can cycle through the cameras with X. The orbit camera. As the name indicates, this camera can orbit around the point of focus. The free camera. This can be placed anywhere. The tripod camera can be placed anywhere and it will automatically focus on the character. The game camera is just that. It will follow the character with whatever camera settings you're currently using. The filmer camera uses the camera motion captured when in filmer mode. I'm going to start by creating a camera pan around the character at the start of this clip. For this, I'm going to use the orbit camera and the smooth key. I'll start by positioning the camera where I want it. I'll use the up arrow to increase the camera's height, the left stick to move the camera closer, and the right stick to rotate the camera to the side. Before I add the keyframe, I want to select the type of key I'll be using. You can cycle through the 3 different keyframes by holding the right shoulder button and pressing the left shoulder button. For this camera move, I'll use the smooth key as it gives a smooth transition between 2 keyframes. I can add the keyframe by holding the right shoulder button and pressing down on the D-pad. You can remove a keyframe by holding the right shoulder button and pressing up on the D-pad. However, to remove a keyframe you need to be directly over it. You can cycle through the different keyframes you've already placed by holding the right shoulder button down and using left and right on the D-pad. You can also undo and redo your last action by holding the right shoulder button down and pressing B to undo or X to redo. Now I've placed the first keyframe, I'll scrub towards the point of time where I want the camera to reach the character's feet. I'll move the camera into the desired position and add a second keyframe. This is probably a good time to mention the montage view. At the moment you can see 2 small gold cameras which represent the keyframes and a blue camera what's the actual camera. If I scrub between the 2 frames you can see the camera moving along its path. If you enable montage view by pressing the left shoulder button and scrubbing backwards and forwards, you'll notice we're now looking through the camera. It's worth noting, using the montage view you'll be locked into the free camera, so any camera movements at the time may respond differently to what you're expecting. Montage view can be really helpful for a few different reasons, but I'm going to check to see if the camera is clipping through the character. If I scrub through and stop where the camera is clipping, I can pull the camera out backwards and add a new keyframe. Now, if we play it back, it will automatically update the camera's path. Now we have the first camera move sorted, we can move on to the next one, where I want to track the character rolling up to do the trick. For this I'm going to use the tripod camera and a linear key. I'm going to start by turning montage view off, so I'm able to change the camera over. I'll add the first keyframe where I want to transfer to the tripod camera. After scrubbing the duration of the panning shot, I'll position the camera how I want it and then I'll add the second keyframe. However, if we play it back as it is, the camera will drift from the feet into the position where the tripod is. This isn't the effect I'm looking for. What I want to do is snap straight to the tripod. To do this, we need to use a constant key. I'm going to start by turning the montage view on and scrubbing back to the keyframe where the orbital camera stops at the feet. Now I'm going to turn the montage view off and scrub forward the smallest amount possible. Here I'll add the constant keyframe that will hold the camera at this angle until the tripod keyframe is triggered. To finish the camera movement off, I'm going to get a close slide-in shot of the trick. To do this, I'll use the free camera with a mixture of keys and some camera rotation. I'll start by adding a constant keyframe for where I want the camera to start. Next, I'll add a smooth keyframe for where I want the camera's movement to begin. Then I'll scrub forwards to where I want the camera's movement to end. But before I add the keyframe, I'm going to add some rotation to the camera as well. You can add rotation to the camera by holding the right shoulder button and using either of the triggers. Finally, I'll add one last keyframe to catch the roll away and right the camera's angle. Now that all the camera keyframes are in place, we can move on to the next type of frame, the field of view and depth of field keyframes. As the names suggest, these keyframes let you adjust how large the field of view is and the depth of field for the camera. I'm going to increase the FOV and the DOF as the camera orbits around the character at the start of the clip. It's worth noting that the current default value for the depth of field is 1000, however it doesn't seem to have any effect until I'm well below 100, so if you don't notice any changes, keep dropping the value. It's also worth noting that you can use the different types of keys for both the field of view and the depth of field keyframes. Next is the play rate keyframe. This is pretty self-explanatory as well. Play rate keyframes are used to control the speed of your footage. The default value starts at 1, what is normal speed. Lowering it towards 0 will slow your footage down, and increasing the value towards 2 will speed the footage up. Here I'm going to use the smooth key and place a keyframe with the value 1 as the trick is being popped. Then I'll put a second keyframe with the value of 0.5 as the board is raising off the ground. This will give us a smooth transaction between the normal speed and the slow motion rather than being a sudden change. I'll also do the same thing in reverse as the trick is being landed. The final type of keyframe is the tag. From what I've gathered, these are used to highlight points of interest within your footage. I suspect they'll be useful when you're working on longer clips of footage. If I've missed anything out or you've got additional information or a question, please do leave a comment below.